The Riot MMO update that no one wanted to hear. Unreal's new Marvel game looks visually stunning, and Epic's new app that sticks the finger to Apple. Well, in Europe anyway. I'm Ash Dixon, and this is Jinx News. The MMO genre is kind of in a dire state right now. Don't get me wrong, games like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV are happily chugging along, but we haven't had anything new or fresh to get excited about in what feels like forever. It's not surprising, few games are as resource intensive as MMOs, and that makes them inherently risky. And as we've seen from Star Wars The Old Republic or The Elder Scrolls Online, slapping a big ol' IP onto the box simply isn't enough. So basically anyone who might actually be capable of pulling off a new successful MMO has avoided the challenge with a 10-foot pole. All except Riot Games. Over the years, they've invested heavily into fleshing out their world of Runeterra into something truly fantastic. League of Legends is no longer just a MOBA with some lore tacked on. It's steeped in a living, breathing world full of character and intrigue. You only have to watch Arcane, arguably one of the best animated series of the decade, to see that this universe that they've created is ripe with potential. A universe perfect for an MMO. Sadly, some bad news today. The Riot MMO is still many years away. It was all the way back in 2020 that they announced it, but according to Riot co-founder Mark Merrill, they decided to reset the direction of the project some time ago and essentially start fresh. On Twitter, he said, "This decision wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The initial vision just wasn't different enough from what you can play today. We don't believe you all want an MMO that you've played before with a Runeterra coat of paint. To truly do justice to the potential of Runeterra and to meet the incredibly high expectations of players around the world, we need to do something that truly feels like a significant evolution of the genre." Now, there is a sense of irony here, because literally all of their successful titles are just games we've played before, but with a Riot coat of paint. League of Legends copied Dota. Valorant copied Counter-Strike. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. They brought enough new stuff to the table to keep things fresh, and ultimately, they're both really high quality games. And going from some of the responses, I think a lot of people disagree with Riot. Over on the MMORPG subreddit, the top response is, that's exactly what people want. The ones we have played before, we have been playing for 20 years for a reason. But as someone that's played so many MMOs over the years, I do feel this is probably what's best for Riot. Don't get me wrong, I still dip into old MMOs, but a large chunk of that is due to nostalgia and familiarity. The genre is stale as hell right now, and while it's riskier to try and innovate, if they pull it off, it will not only be the MMO that so many of us have been waiting for, but it could completely rejuvenate the genre. Sadly, the byproduct of this is that Riot is, quote, going dark, likely for several years. And it physically hurts for me to say this, but there's a good chance this won't come out until like 2029 or 2030. Ugh. The game was originally being led by WoW veteran Greg Street, better known as Ghostcrawler. He left Riot around a year ago and founded his own studio, Fantastic Pixel Castle, who are now making their own MMO. And there doesn't seem to be any bad blood here, though he did tweet in response, "Two of the reasons I founded my own studio are 1, I don't want to take 10 years to develop a game, and 2, I want to develop in the open with players along for the journey." As he followed up, neither strategy is right or wrong, but what do you think? Would you rather have a modern League WoW clone, or would you prefer to wait for a truly innovative MMO? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The Game Developers Conference is chugging along nicely in San Francisco, and yesterday we had the Unreal Engine showcase, meaning we got a whole bunch of news from Epic. One of the highlights was a brand new Marvel game from the director of the Uncharted series. Called Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, it will be a narrative-driven ensemble adventure, set of course during World War II. You'll control an ensemble of characters: a young Captain America, the World War II era Black Panther, Gabriel Jones, a US soldier and member of the Howling Commandos, and Nanali, leader of the fledgling Wakandan spy network. And what's perhaps most impressive is just how good this game looks. Built in Unreal Engine 5.4, the cutscenes shown off are all incredibly running in-game in real time. And yeah, it looks pretty as hell, but it's when you look at the details that it gets truly mind-blowing. Just look at how the clothes flex and crease at the elbow as Captain America moves, or the facial animations here that just look eerily realistic. This isn't a cinematic or pre-rendered, it's the actual game's graphics. Compare that to other modern games like Starfield, and the leap forward here is insane. So yeah, clearly they've got the in-game environments and cutscenes down, and here's hoping it has the gameplay and story to match. Either way, that'll be dropping at some point next year. But that wasn't the only game we saw. Gameplay for Star Wars Hunters has finally been revealed. That's the upcoming PvP arena game that's been in development for what seems like forever. In fact, it was originally scheduled for release back in 2021, and here we are 3 years later with a new gameplay tech demo. And yes, this is a mobile game, so don't get too excited. Well, it's dropping on the Switch as well. Oh, and it's made by Zynga, most famous for games like Farmville and Game of Thrones Slots Casino. To their credit though, this does look surprisingly polished, and as much as we roll our eyes at mobile games, clearly a whole ton of people do actually play them. And finally from Epic, do you remember when they had a bit of a tiff with Apple and Google over their app stores? They made that video with the guy in a suit with an apple for a head. And after more courtroom drama than an episode of Law & Order,
these are their stories.
As things stand, Epic seems able to launch its own game store on Android worldwide and on iOS in Europe. And you know what that means. Fortnite is coming back to mobile, baby! Well, except for Apple users outside of Europe. Sorry. It'll be interesting to see how Epic brings your library of games onto mobile devices. One of the things many have complained about with the Steam mobile app is that it can only be used to stream games from a PC, rather than being able to install mobile-friendly versions of games to your phone directly. Will Epic do the same? Almost certainly not. The whole point of this was to get all that money from those sweet, sweet Fortnite purchases. And that would make this the first PC gaming platform to work across PC and mobile seamlessly. Director of the Epic Games Store, Steve Allison, told GDC the app was targeting a release by the end of the year, and that a bunch of developers have expressed interest in working with them on bringing their games to this new app. We've still got a while to wait, but this could be a real game changer for mobile gaming, unless Apple gets their way, which they might. Either way, I personally enjoy watching all these greedy corporations splashing out their money, fighting each other in the courts. And that's the show. If you like our content, why not subscribe to our brand new Jinx Plus? That's our new Patreon, where you can access our back catalogue of a huge array of shows, as well as early access to some of our very best content. Plus, you'll just be downright supporting the show. If not, we'll happily settle for a like and subscribe. Either way, we'll see you tomorrow.